Hello there, my dear sleepy listener. Welcome back to this quiet space between your breath and the stars. You've made it through the flicker of today, through whatever clocks, screens, and stories accompanied you here. Now the world is dimming, the lights are softening, and all around you, the night is unfolding like a blanket drawn across time. There's a question on your pillow tonight, a quiet one that has waited patiently all your life. Maybe you've felt it stir in the corners of daydreams, or echo through your bones when standing beneath the stars. Is the future already written somewhere? Not just imagined, not planned, but written, etched across the unseen pages of reality, waiting for you to catch up. It's not a question we answer, it's one we wander through, and that's exactly what we'll do now. Drift gently through thought, through science, through metaphor and moonlight, to explore the edges of what we know and the center of what we still wonder. But before we begin, before you drift away into peaceful slumber, please take a moment to like this video. Leave a gentle comment about your favorite moment of science, and subscribe to keep these bedtime stories coming. And if you feel called, let us know where you're listening from, what time it is, what kind of sky is above your home. It's a beautiful thing to sleep beside strangers across this spinning globe connected by nothing more than curiosity and calm. Now, dim the lights, get cozy, and let your curiosity float alongside the stars. You're lying in bed now, sinking slowly into the fabric of stillness. Outside your window, the world may still be turning, but inside this moment, there is only you and the future, just out of reach. Or maybe not. Because you begin to wonder, what is the future? Is it something you walk toward, like a road already paved, or is it something that emerges beneath your feet as you step forward? Is it fixed, flexible, familiar, or utterly, achingly unknown? You think about how it feels to stand in the present moment, to breathe right now, in this room, with these thoughts. Everything leading up to this moment feels like a trail, a sequence of events you can name. You were here, then there. You said this, you heard that. But when you turn to look ahead to tomorrow, next year, 10 minutes from now, you see only mist. And still, somewhere in you, there's a feeling, a sense that maybe some of what's to come is already in motion, already shaped, already known, if not to you, then to the universe. You remember moments that seemed inevitable in hindsight. That job you took, that stranger you met, that yes you said even before you fully understood the question. You remember the times you had a feeling, a nudge, a knowing without logic, and you wonder, were those choices yours, or were you stepping into something that had already been unfolding beneath the surface? Is it possible that your future was never waiting to be made, but only to be remembered? You breathe slowly now. You're not rushing for answers. You're floating with the question. Because science doesn't know either. Not exactly. Physicists argue. Philosophers muse. Neuroscientists study decision-making, while poets write about fate. And somewhere between all that, beneath the equations and brain scans and verses, you find yourself. Here, in the mystery, drifting peacefully. Some scientists believe time is a human invention, that past, present, and future are illusions created by the mind to make sense of change. Others believe time is real, a river we float through, always moving forward. But even in physics, it gets slippery. Relativity tells us that time does not move the same everywhere, that for someone in a fast-moving spaceship or deep in gravity's grip, time ticks differently. So what does that mean for the future? Is it a place? Is it a moment waiting for you to arrive? Or is it like a star, its light already sent, its path already set? Even if you haven't seen it yet, you think now of books, a story you've read before. You can flip forward to the end. The words are already there. The fate of the characters already written. But if you don't peek, if you just read page by page, it feels like anything can happen. Maybe the universe is like that, already written, but only revealed one heartbeat at a time. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe you are writing it as you live it. Maybe it becomes real because you choose. You don't need to decide tonight. You just need to drift, to wonder, to rest in the quiet space between what is and what might be. Because in this moment, the only time that exists is now, and even now is already beginning to fade. Sleep well, soft traveller. The future is not something to fear. It is something to feel, and you are already part of it. You are still now, still in your body, still in your breath, still in your bed, but not in your understanding, because something has begun to tilt, a soft unravelling of what you thought time was. It used to seem so simple. Time marched forward, tock, tock, tock. Minutes became hours, days became years. The past sat behind you, the future stretched ahead. But now, you're floating in a different kind of space, a space where time doesn't march. It curves, it stretches, it folds, and you're not just a passenger. You are part of the unfolding. You drift now beside Einstein's thoughts. Not equations, not chalkboard proofs, but dreams. Because it was a dream, in a way, that first nudged Einstein toward the truth that time and space are not separate. They are one thing, space-time, a fabric, not a surface you stand on, but something you are within, and time, in this strange fabric, is not the background. It's a dimension, just like left and right, just like up and down. When you move through space, you use those 3 dimensions. But as you move through life, you're also travelling in the 4th. Time. You can't feel it the same way. You can't look left into tomorrow or step right into last Tuesday. But you are moving through time just as surely as a bird glides through air. And like air, time can be stretched. This is where things start to shift from what you've always assumed, because Einstein found something wondrous. Time doesn't tick the same for everyone. A person moving quickly in a spaceship or near a black hole experiences time slower than someone standing still. This isn't science fiction. It's been measured. Astronauts on the International Space Station age just a little more slowly than those on Earth. Not by much. Not enough to notice, but enough to prove that time bends. It bends with speed. It bends with gravity. And if time can bend, can it also wrap? Can it also loop? Can it exist all at once? These are not questions with answers tonight. These are doorways, and you're standing at one now. You imagine a universe where time is not a line, but a landscape. Everything that has happened. Everything that will all sitting side by side like mountains and valleys. You're walking along one ridge, the present. But from above, from a God's eye view, the whole map is already there. Every page already printed, every heartbeat already placed. This is one view of space-time, sometimes called the block universe, a universe where time does not become, but is, unchanging, complete, already written. You feel the strangeness of it, and you wonder if the future already exists. Why don't you feel it? Why does now feel different from next? Why do you forget the future but remember the past? That's the haunting puzzle, because in the equations, there is no difference between the two. Time, like space, simply is. And yet your experience tells a different story. You feel time move. You feel it flow. So maybe the river isn't in time. Maybe it's in you. Maybe you're the one moving through a space-time that is already complete, like a needle pulling thread through cloth, like a flashlight shining on one slice of film at a time, each moment always there, but only one lit up. You drift now with this thought, softly, slowly, letting it settle. You're not racing the future, you're discovering it, unfolding it, illuminating it one breath at a time. And if it's already there, if the fabric of space-time is already woven, then maybe you are not here to build the path, but to walk it with wonder. You think of the sky, how some of the stars you see died long ago, their light still travelling, still arriving. You are looking into the past and feeling it now. Is the same true in reverse? Could something from your future already be on its way to you? Its light not yet seen, but already coming. No one knows. No one is sure. Some physicists still argue whether the block universe is real or a beautiful illusion. But for now, you don't need to decide. You just need to float. To listen to time not as a ticking clock, but as a landscape you are slowly exploring. The future may not be a destination. It may be a place you're already part of. You're not running out of time. You are inside it. So rest, gentle traveller of the fourth dimension. The journey is not hurried. The path is not lost. You are where you're meant to be, and time, however strange, is not a wall, but a window through which you softly pass. You're weightless now, not just in body, but in meaning, in motion, in mystery. You drift above the hours, beyond the tug of ticking hands, past the hum of the day's timeline. You're floating not forward, but through. Because tonight, you've slipped into the idea that time is not something you move through like a hallway, but something that simply is a whole, a shape, a map. And like any map, not everything is visible at once. Not because it isn't there, but because of where you're standing. You float now through the strange and elegant idea called the block universe. It's a picture of reality offered by Einstein's equations and extended by thinkers who looked at space-time not as a river, but as a mountain range. Not something moving, but something vast, fixed, already there. Imagine for a moment that time is space, that every moment your birth, your first kiss, your next thought, your last breath exists simultaneously in a four-dimensional block, every second already laid out, already woven, already eternal, not one after the other, not waiting in line, just sitting side by side like rooms in a cathedral you've yet to enter. You're not being pushed through time. You're sliding your tiny flashlight across the surface of the whole, lighting up just one room at a time. And because of that, you feel time as movement, but the movement is yours, not time's. You hover now at the edge of a moment, maybe one you lived long ago. You peer into it like a window. It's still there, not stored in memory, but existing in space-time's great library of events. Some physicists believe this is exactly what the universe is, a block containing every event that ever happened and ever will. Just as a landscape contains hills and valleys all there at once, even if you can't stand on them all at once, in this view, there is no real now, no present moment any more special than the rest, just the moment your consciousness is currently lit upon, but the rest still real, still waiting, like unopened letters in the drawer of the universe, and yes, that includes the future. You breathe softly now, and wonder if the future already exists. Am I just discovering it? Is each choice I make just a turn on a trail already drawn, or is it more mysterious than that? Is consciousness travelling through the block, not like a train on tracks, but like a painter brushing colour onto an already sketched canvas, adding feeling, texture, meaning? Maybe your experience of time is not just movement, but awareness spreading, and that awareness is what makes the block come alive. You think now of how GPS shows your path through space, but what if your path through time is just as plotted, not in the way of control, not destiny like a locked vault, but destiny like a book already written, its ending known by the author, but unknown to the character until the page turns. You are the character, and this dream, this moment, this page, softly turning. You consider how strange it is that physics at its deepest level doesn't care about time. The laws are time symmetric. They work the same whether time moves forward or backward. There is nothing in the equations that requires a present, no law that insists on one direction. So why, you wonder, do we experience time as a river flowing one way? Why does the now feel so real? Some say it's just biology, that your brain gathers information, makes memories, and stitches it into the illusion of a present. Others say that consciousness itself creates the sensation of flow, a flashlight moving steadily across the frozen block. You're not just floating now, you're illuminating. You drift gently into the idea that love, grief, laughter, and longing, all the things that make moments matter, are how we experience the map. They are the colours on the coordinates, and though the coordinates exist without you, they are empty without you. Maybe that's the secret, that the block universe is not about fate, it's about fullness, that all time exists, but it needs awareness to come alive. And every time you notice it, a tear, a laugh, a quiet pause at dusk, you bring that moment out of stillness and into experience. You're not just reading time, you're interpreting it. So rest now. Curious explorer, the future is not behind a locked door. It is here, somewhere in the dark, already carved into the block, waiting patiently for your light. You're drifting again, but this time you're faster than anything your body has ever known, faster than thought, faster than dreams, faster than memory. You're riding on a beam of light, a photon, born from the heart of a star, or the shimmer of a screen, or the breath of a galaxy a billion years away. And unlike you, unlike matter, unlike clocks and calendars and cells, light does not experience time. You float now inside that knowing. Let it settle. Let it surprise you. Because for the photon, there is no journey, no before, no after. The moment it leaves and the moment it arrives are the same. To the photon, the distance it travels might as well be zero, because at the speed of light, time stops. This isn't poetry, it's physics. The mathematics of special relativity tell us that as you accelerate, time begins to slow down relative to someone standing still, and at the speed of light it halts altogether, which means that beam of light you saw leave a distant star, the one that took 100,000 years to reach your telescope, that light never felt the journey. From its perspective, it was emitted and absorbed in the same breathless instant. You are lying here now, in your bed, breathing slowly, and your mind begins to widen. What if the future feels distant to you because you're made of slow matter, but as something made of light? It's already here. It already is. You're not light, but your thoughts move like it, faster than your body, capable of spanning the years in a single moment of memory or imagination. You remember your grandmother's voice. You picture a child not yet born. You revisit something you once dreamed as if it still belonged to you. And maybe, just maybe, those moments exist somewhere in space-time, already stitched into the whole, already glowing in their own soft corner of the universe. You drift now into a different kind of light, the cosmic microwave background. It's the oldest light we can see, left over from the birth of the universe itself. It's everywhere. It's behind your eyelids. It's inside your bones. It hums through the static between stars and radio songs. This light has been travelling for nearly 14 billion years, and yet it is just arriving now. You're made of matter that cooled from its fire. You're built from ancient light, and that light, though timeless in its motion, still took time to reach you. Is the future like that already written, already glowing, but simply still on its way? You drift beside a photon heading for Earth. It left a quasar when mammals had yet to walk. It knows nothing of waiting. It simply moves. But when it hits the telescope, we see it. We record it. We say it arrived. And yet, to the photon, there was never a wait. Only this moment. Perhaps the future is full of photons already in flight. Moments already created, already shaped, already real, but not yet observed, not yet absorbed into your awareness. And when they arrive, you will think how strange, how new. But maybe they were always coming. You just hadn't turned your telescope that way. You think now of the choices you haven't made, the words you haven't spoken, the places you haven't seen. Are they already glowing on the horizon? Are they photons in flight? Or do they not exist until you look for them? There's beauty in both possibilities. Either the future is already lit like constellations waiting for your gaze, or it's dark until you decide to shine into it. Either way, you're part of the story. Either way, you're not lost. You're in motion. You're receiving what the universe has been quietly sending all along. So rest now, dear traveller of light. Time does not always move the way you think. And sometimes what feels far away is already arriving, already here. You are moving now, but not in the way the body moves. You're drifting deeper into the strange softness where time begins to lose its shape. This time, you don't float forward. You lean into a shadow, but it's not from something behind you. It's from something ahead, a moment not yet born casting its outline onto the present. You breathe, you wait. You begin to wonder, what if some effects don't follow causes? What if something from tomorrow can whisper to today? You are not the first to ask such a question. In physics, it's called retrocausality, the possibility that the future could send ripples backward, that outcomes could shape beginnings. It sounds impossible. It sounds like dreaming. And yet, in the quiet corners of quantum theory, it cannot be ruled out. You drift now through the ordinary way of things the way you were taught. 'Cause first, effect later. You drop a stone, it falls. You speak a word, it echoes. You light a match, it burns. But quantum particles do not always play by these rules. In certain experiments like the strange, shimmering delayed choice quantum eraser light particles behave as if they know what will happen in the future. They pass through slits, scatter like waves, and then, only after the fact, a measurement is made, and that measurement seems to change how they acted in the past, not when seen by a human, but when viewed by math, and in math, there is no panic, only patterns. You drift through this idea with careful peace. What if time is not a line, but a field? And what if every point can influence every other? The way a pebble dropped in one part of a pond sends ripples that reach the other side before your eyes can trace them. The present, the past, and the future might be linked by something deeper than sequence. They might be entangled not just in space, but in meaning. You remember now those moments that didn't make sense at the time, that dream that matched real life. 2 weeks later, that decision you felt suddenly sure about, as if you'd already lived its result. That hesitation before a phone call, followed by news that changed everything. You called it intuition, coincidence, synchronicity. But maybe, just maybe, it was an echo from the future. A shadow that hadn't fallen yet. You drift through memory now like a hallway, and you notice some doors seem brighter than others. Some paths feel heavy, like they have already been walked. What if your life is a forest of paths and your choices are not just responding to your past, but to futures already in motion? Some physicists wonder whether the entire universe operates like a perfect equation, symmetrical in time, that the Big Bang was not the beginning, but the center, and from it, time flows outward in both directions. One universe flowing forward, another flowing back, both unaware of the other's direction, both feeling like the only one. It's a theory, but in your quiet bed, it feels like poetry. You're resting right now, in the overlap of possibility, and maybe the future does reach back. Not to control you, not to override you, but to guide you, to nudge you into alignment with the story already whispering your name. You are not powerless. You are a note in a melody that is still being played, but some harmonies they were always meant to be. You may not remember what's coming, but sometimes your body does. Your chest tightens, your skin hums, your hand pulls back before the glass falls. Not because of habit, not because of logic, but because something already happened that your cells can feel. You drift now through this quiet mystery with a soft smile. Time is not a law, it is a language, and some of its grammar you have always known. So rest. Let your thoughts quiet. Let the future arrive in its own way. You do not need to chase it. You only need to feel the shadows before they fall, and know they are part of the light too. You're dreaming now, or remembering a dream that never quite belonged to the past. It floats in that soft fog between night and morning, between story and silence, between nothing and not yet. You see a street you've never walked. You hear a voice you don't recognize, but something inside you shifts, as if you've been here before. You wake up, the dream fades, the world begins again. But weeks later you see the same street, hear the same voice, and you stop. A chill moves through you, not cold, but curious. How could I have dreamed this before it happened? You're not alone in this. Tonight, you drift into the hidden archives of the dreaming mind, a place where time isn't as loyal to order as we think. It's called precognitive dreaming, or simply precognition. The phenomenon of experiencing something before it unfolds. It's been reported for centuries by kings and soldiers, mothers and scientists, poets and children. Abraham Lincoln spoke of dreaming his own death just days before it came. Mark Twain dreamed of his brother's funeral before the accident, and millions of unnamed dreamers wake up with something soft and strange settled on their skin, a knowing they can't explain. Some dreams are mundane, a room, a phrase, a face. And then the event happens, and the dreamer remembers. Other times, the dreams are metaphorical. A train crash becomes a breakup. A wave becomes a diagnosis. A flight becomes a phone call that changes everything. And the meaning clicks into place only after the moment arrives. You drift now beside those who have tried to explain it. Psychologists, parapsychologists, physicists, skeptics. Some say it's just coincidence. That we dream thousands of scenes, and every so often, one aligns with real life, like rolling 1,000,000 dice, and one lands on the number you were thinking of. But others suggest something deeper, that dreams may be able to access information not yet available to the waking mind. That in sleep where ego steps aside, where the conscious mind dissolves, we tap into a layer of knowing that isn't bound by linear time. They call it the unconscious, or the collective unconscious, or psi, or non-local awareness, different names for the same question. Could part of the mind already know what is still to come? You drift now through the brain itself. During REM sleep, your brain is alive with patterns. It simulates. It rehearses. It recombines memories and imagined futures. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and planning, goes quiet. Meanwhile, your limbic system, your emotional brain, becomes loud. This is why dreams often feel vivid but irrational, why they carry meaning but not sense. And yet what if this irrationality is a strength? What if dreams are the mind's way of trying out possibilities? What if they are tiny simulations of futures you may or may not choose, and sometimes they guess right? Or maybe they're not guessing, maybe they're glimpsing. From some strange fold in the fabric of space-time, the dreamer catches a flicker, a shadow of what's coming, and when it arrives, they recognize the shape. You drift through your own dreams now, ones you remember, ones you forgot, ones that may never have been dreams at all. But moments slipped sideways into your memory. You think of déjà vu, of gut feelings, of standing in a place for the first time and knowing something is about to happen. Is it magic? Is it pattern? Or is it a kind of memory from the future? No one knows. And perhaps that is the point. Dreams are not files. They are rivers. They do not report. They reveal. And sometimes the future floats downstream before it has a name. You drift now through the silence after a dream, the part where you wake and can't quite tell if it meant anything. That's okay. Meaning is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives like a scent on wind, like light through water, like a whisper from tomorrow. So rest now, soft traveller of dream and time. If your dreams carry pieces of the future, may they do so gently. And if they don't, may they still keep you close to the mystery. Because whether or not the future is written, some part of you already speaks its language. And in sleep, you remember how to listen. You're floating now in a sea of maybe, not yes, not no, but all the possibilities that wait between. It's not uncertainty that scares you. It's uncertainty that holds you soft as fog, gentle as driftwood on a quiet ocean. Tonight, you find yourself inside the strange dream of quantum physics, where particles flicker in and out of being, where position is a suggestion, where futures are not paths, but clouds. You drift beside a single particle, perhaps an electron. You cannot see it. You can only guess, until you measure it. It isn't anywhere in particular. It exists in what physicists call a superposition many states at once. Here, there, up, down, every possible version of itself, coexisting in a humming fog of probability. And only when you look, only when you observe, does it choose, or does it? That's the heart of the question. Did your observation cause the outcome, or did the outcome already exist, waiting for you to discover it? You drift now into the core idea of quantum mechanics, that at the smallest levels, the universe behaves not with certainty, but with probability. It is a dice game played with particles, but it's no ordinary dice. It's as if the universe rolls every number at once, and then, upon observation, only one shows. You begin to wonder if the building blocks of reality don't know their future until we look. Then what does that say about our future? Are we built on randomness, or is the randomness just a veil for something deeper? Some scientists say the universe is fundamentally indeterminate, that nothing is truly decided until it happens. Others believe there are hidden variables, unseen factors that would make the outcomes predictable if only we could see far enough, like reading a script that's been kept behind the curtain. And then there's the many worlds interpretation. You float into that now, a cosmic unfolding of unimaginable scale. In this view, every possible outcome actually happens. When a particle chooses up or down, the universe splits. One version continues with the up result, another with the down, and so on, forever. A new world for every possibility. You wonder if this is true, then somewhere, there's a version of you that made every other choice, took the other job, said yes instead of no, missed the train and met someone who changed everything. And maybe some version of you is watching this same dream from another angle. The future, in that case, is not a single line. It's a fractal, infinite branches, infinite stories, infinite yous. And yet, you only feel this one. You're here, now, listening, breathing, not splintered, but whole. So what decides which future you feel? That's the great mystery. Some say consciousness collapses the wave function, picking a single path out of the mist. Others say it's chance. And still others believe that free will is part illusion, that your brain is following a script written by molecules and quantum twitches before you're aware. But you are not rushing to choose. You're simply resting in the quantum calm. Because maybe the future is not written like a sentence. Maybe it's written like music, a field of tones waiting for a player, a cloud of harmonies waiting for a breath. And when you act, when you choose, you're not imposing order. You are selecting a song, one that was always there, but only becomes audible when you listen. You drift now beside the thought that even randomness has rules. Even chaos has structure. The probabilities we use in quantum mechanics are astonishingly precise. We cannot predict the outcome, but we can predict the likelihood with incredible accuracy, which means even when the universe rolls dice, it does so with rhythm. It dances on the edge of chance and certainty, and maybe your future does the same, not fixed, not wild, but shaped by the interplay of pattern and possibility. So rest now, curious dreamer. Let the quantum sea hold you. Let the particles whisper. Your future is not lost. It is not yet. And somewhere in the shimmer of all possible outcomes, the one you will live is already humming, just waiting for you to step toward it. You're standing before a curtain now, a thin veil between seeing and being, and tonight you're going to lift it slowly, because on the other side of this quiet velvet edge lies one of the strangest dreams science has ever had. It is called the double-slit experiment, a dream that began not with galaxies or black holes or atoms, but with light, and a question so simple it almost sounds childlike. What happens when you shine light through two tiny slits? You drift now into the memory of this moment. Thomas Young, in the early 1800s, performed the first version of the experiment. He expected two beams of light to pass through the slits and make two bright marks on a screen behind them. But that's not what happened. Instead, the light created a pattern, an interference pattern, like ripples overlapping in water. It wasn't acting like particles, it was behaving like waves that passed through both slits at the same time, interfering with themselves. But that's not the strangest part. The real wonder arrived much later when scientists repeated the experiment with individual particles, electrons, one at a time, fired toward the slits. They expected the electrons to go through one slit or the other and land on the screen like marbles. But no, even a single particle created a wave-like interference pattern over time, as if it, too, was somehow passing through both slits at once. You pause now, you breathe, because what comes next tilts reality at its edges. Physicists tried to watch. They placed detectors at the slits to observe which slit the particle actually passed through, and the moment they looked, the moment they measured the interference vanished. The wave pattern disappeared. The electron chose a path, one slit or the other. It stopped behaving like a wave and started behaving like a particle. The act of observing changed the outcome. Let that settle. Not the measuring tool, not the screen, but the knowing. When you knew which path it took, it stopped behaving like possibility and became something specific. And now, you drift in wonder, because it raises a question as old as dreaming. Does observation create reality? Does consciousness choose from the future which past becomes real? You think of your own life now, the moments you replay, the decisions you analyze, the times you say, "If I had only..." You think of the path not taken, the job declined, the phone call missed, the yes that became a no, and suddenly you wonder, do those moments still exist? Are they waves that collapsed the moment you looked? Or is your life still shimmering with possibilities you haven't measured yet? You drift back to the particle. It does not decide in the way humans decide, but it changes when you know. So what is knowing? Is it presence? Is it attention? Is it intention? Some thinkers believe that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but a fundamental force, something that participates in shaping what happens, not by force, but by focus. And when you focus, when you look, you turn what might be into what is. Could it be that the future isn't waiting to be discovered, but to be noticed? You drift now into a softer thought, that your choices may echo backward as much as they move forward, that the future you imagine today could influence the memories you build tomorrow. Some experiments in quantum physics hint at this possibility, that outcomes measured now can retroactively affect events that came before. It's controversial, it's uncertain, but it's not impossible. You feel it now like a tide under your thoughts. Maybe time doesn't only flow one way. Maybe it curls like smoke, twists like wind, responds like a melody you haven't heard yet, but already feel in your chest. So what does this mean for you? It means you're not separate from time. You are part of the equation. Your observation, your attention, your witnessing matters. And not just to you, to reality itself. You're not a spectator of your future. You're its collaborator, its artist, its witness, its soft, curious mirror. So rest now. Your choices are not vanishing. They are forming, not all at once, but in the glow of your gaze. And if some possibilities fade, others will always remain, waiting, like slits in a wall through which light still dances. You only have to look, and the path will become real. You are floating now through threads you cannot see, silken, invisible, spun through the fabric of the cosmos like the quietest of chords, tuned not in space, but in connection. Tonight, you drift beside a phenomenon so delicate, so strange, that Einstein himself once called it spooky action at a distance. It is called quantum entanglement, a mystery so deep it bends the rules even time tries to follow. You imagine now two particles born together, linked from the start. They could be electrons, or photons, or something smaller still. You separate them by inches, by miles, by planets, by light years. And still, no matter the distance, when one changes, the other responds instantly, as if they are still one thing, as if the space between them is an illusion. Entanglement defies locality. It defies time delay. It suggests that what is done to one particle is somehow known by the other, before a signal could travel. You rest now inside that mystery. If this connection holds across space, might it also stretch across time? Could a particle entangled with another still respond to its partner's choice long after its own moment has passed? Could the future somehow ripple backward into the past? You drift deeper now into the idea of temporal entanglement, an idea that time and space might not be separate threads, but loops knotting, folding, entwining what was, what is, and what has not yet come. In certain quantum interpretations, entanglement doesn't just happen in the present. It suggests that particles may be entangled across time, that events separated by seconds or centuries might be part of the same quantum whole. You think now of two hands reaching through a veil. They cannot see one another, but they move in mirror. One twists, the other tilts, one clenches, the other loosens, not because one controls the other, but because they are part of the same gesture. You are part of that gesture. So is the version of you 10 years from now. So is the one who made the choice you don't yet understand. Perhaps you are entangled with your future self, not metaphorically, but literally. Maybe the thoughts you have tonight are not born here. Maybe they are echoes of moments still to come, moments where you already chose, already forgave, already grew into the person you are becoming. And if that's true, then fate isn't a chain, it's a relationship. You're not being dragged into the future, you're being called into coherence. You think now of the people you've met and felt you knew long before, of places that felt familiar the first time your feet touched them, of sudden clarity in a time of fog. What if those, too, were entangled? What if your life is not just a sequence of events, but a network of resonance, moments calling to each other from the past, from the future, from beyond what language can hold? You float above your own story now. You see yourself not as a point on a line, but as constellation. Each star a decision, a meeting, a feeling, and the lines between them are not drawn in chalk, but in quantum light. You are whole. Even before you know how the story ends, you rest in that now. You are not waiting to become yourself. You already are. Even the parts you haven't met yet. Even the moments that haven't yet arrived. If entanglement teaches anything, it is that reality is not built from separation. It is built from relationship and time. Time is simply the way we experience those relationships unfolding. So sleep now. You are not apart. You are not behind. Somewhere in the stillness, your future self is reaching back, and you are reaching forward. And between you there is no distance. Only connection. Only now. You are resting now in the quiet space before a decision. No choice yet made. No path yet chosen. Just the soft tension of potential. But something curious is happening. Something beneath awareness. A flicker. A pulse. A subtle shift in shadows you cannot yet see. Because your brain is already preparing. Before you know it. Before you name it. Before you even think you've chosen. Tonight, you drift into a different kind of mystery, not in stars, but in neurons, not in galaxies, but in folds of grey matter curled gently behind your forehead. You float now through the dream of the mind predicting its own future, and the dream is very real. In the 1980s, a series of studies shook the foundations of how we understand choice. A scientist named Benjamin Libet hooked participants up to EEG machines measuring the tiny pulses of electricity in their brains. He asked them to make a simple decision. Move your wrist whenever you feel the urge, and to note the moment they became aware of deciding seems easy, but the results were not. Because the EEG showed that the brain began to prepare for the action a full half-second before the person consciously decided. The readiness potential, that early brain signal, flickered first. Only then did the person say, "I decided." You drift slowly through that discovery. A moment you thought was yours may have already been initiated by the time you felt it. You wonder now if the brain begins the motion before the self chooses it, then who or what is choosing. Later studies found similar results. In some cases, neural patterns predicted decisions up to 7 seconds before conscious awareness. Long before you make up your mind has made up you. You hover above this puzzle like a feather on wind. It is not frightening. It is curious, because maybe free will is not a single point. Maybe it's a cloud, a swirl of sensations, subconscious leanings, neural momentum, and maybe your awareness is the final echo, not the first spark. But here's the twist. Even Libet himself didn't say we lack free will. He proposed something else, the idea of a veto. That while the brain may begin preparing an action before you consciously decide, you still have the power to stop it, to say no, to step away, to alter course. He called it free won't. You are drifting now through a choice you haven't made yet. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next year, and you wonder, has your brain already begun the first whisper? Has your body felt it before your thoughts caught up? This isn't fate, it's rhythm. It's your nervous system singing a note before you know the tune. And when you finally hum along, it feels like yours. Because it is. You're not separate from your brain. You're not riding on top of a machine. You're the pattern, the river, the whole. Even the part that moves before you know it. You drift now through the edges of sleep where so many decisions dissolve. You remember how often you choose without thinking, what to say, where to look, when to laugh, how to turn a key. Not because you lack free will, but because choice is not always conscious. It is often embodied, built from layers of memory, emotion, habit, and yes, anticipation. You are not a static observer waiting for the future to arrive. You're an organism predicting it. At every moment, your brain is forecasting what the next word might be, what the next sensation will feel like, what the world expects when you reach for a door or say a name. Prediction is your most primal skill, and it begins before you are aware. In that sense, you are already living slightly ahead of yourself and the future. Perhaps it's not a fixed destination. Perhaps it's a probability map your brain quietly updates with every breath. And perhaps your awareness is the tiny lantern walking slowly behind the work already begun. But even so, that lantern matters because it gives light to the shape of the road. So sleep now. Your brain is still preparing, still gently shifting its synaptic sands, still rehearsing futures you may or may not live. But here, in this moment, you don't have to choose. Just let the mind drift forward on its quiet current. And know, you're already becoming, you're spiraling now, not downward, not upward, but gently inward, into a circle that seems, at first, to be made of time, but is perhaps made of meaning, a loop, a path that leads back to itself. Tonight, you drift into one of the most surreal corners of space-time where past and future might not just touch, they might feed each other, a theory born not in fiction, but in equations' closed causal curves. Soft words for a strange idea. That time, under certain conditions, can fold. That it may be possible to trace a path through space-time that loops back into its own history. Not metaphor, not metaphorical déjà vu, but actual paths where cause and effect form a circle. You drift now beside a thought experiment. It's called the information loop. Imagine a brilliant physicist who one day receives a mysterious notebook full of detailed instructions for building a time machine. She uses them. She builds the machine. She travels back, and in the past, she gives the notebook to a younger version of herself. That younger self grows up and repeats the cycle. But here's the question. Where did the information come from? Who wrote the notebook the first time? No one. It simply exists looping through time, never beginning, never ending. A strange gift from causality to itself. You float now into this paradox. It is not meant to be solved. It is meant to be felt. Because in physics, closed causal curves are allowed by general relativity under certain conditions, near rotating black holes. Inside exotic space-time geometries, where gravity folds space into twists and curls. We have never built one. We do not know if they truly exist, but the math allows them. And where math allows, wonder follows. You think now of moments in your life that felt circular. Times you returned to the same lesson, the same place, the same conversation, not because you forgot, but because something was still complete in itself. Maybe time doesn't always move like an arrow. Maybe it pulses like a heart, beats of experience repeating until the meaning is fully felt. You drift now into the myth of the Ouroboros, the serpent that eats its own tail, a symbol as old as stories, whispering that all endings are beginnings, and beginnings never truly begin. What if your life has moments like that, futures that are only possible because of pasts that they themselves created. You think now of inspiration, of sudden insights, of moments when you knew something without knowing why. What if those weren't echoes from the past, but whispers from a loop that has not yet closed? Could your future self be helping to shape you now? Not with words, not with visions, but with small nudges, a pull toward a book, a pause before a decision, a comfort in grief that felt too wise for the moment. Maybe causality doesn't mind loops. Maybe the universe is not a machine of straight lines, but a garden of spirals, and you are growing right on time. You drift now to the idea of a self-consistent loop. In physics, this means any action you take in the past must be consistent with the present you left. You can't change history, because history includes you. So the loop is not contradiction. It is choreography, a dance so intricate that every step has already accounted for the next. And maybe your life is full of that kind of grace. Maybe the future doesn't overwrite the past, but reminds it. So rest now, dreamer in the spiral. If your thoughts return to old moments, don't resist. They may be part of a loop still unfolding, not to trap you, not to confuse you, but to complete something beautiful, something soft, something true. Let the circle hold you. Let the loop be kind. And know in this vast and curved universe, nothing meaningful is ever truly lost. It simply returns when the time is right. You drift now, not along a single thread, but into a shimmering braid that splits and splits again and splits again. There is no end. There is no edge. You are floating through the soft, wild mystery called the multiverse. And tonight, you are not one version of yourself. You are all of them. The scientist, the artist, the gardener who stayed, the wanderer who left, the version who said yes, the version who never did. You do not feel fragmented. You feel held by possibility. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics proposes something extraordinary, that every quantum event, every tiny moment of uncertainty, creates a branching universe. When a particle chooses up or down, both outcomes happen, each in a different world, not imagined, not hypothetical, real. So when you made that decision last year to move, or stay, or reach out, or walk away, in some version of the universe, you did both. And both versions of you are still living that choice. You drift now through these universes. They do not collide. They do not fight. They shimmer side by side, like pearls on a string you cannot see. There is a version of you who never learned this truth, a version who did, a version who reads these words from a different place, a different time, a different set of possibilities. The multiverse is not chaos. It is completion. Every path taken, every branch honoured. The story does not choose. It includes. Some physicists believe this solves the puzzles of quantum mechanics. No need for wave function collapse. No need for spooky observation. Just endless branching. Endless being. You wonder now if every version of you exists. What makes this one feel more real? Why are you here, in this exact skin, this exact moment? Maybe it's not more real. Maybe it's just the version you are experiencing, and the others not gone, not lost, just parallel. You might meet them in dreams, in déjà vu, in sudden knowing that does not belong to this timeline. You felt it before, the sense that something was supposed to happen but didn't. A life just out of view. Maybe that's not imagination. Maybe that's memory of another you. You float now through the idea of quantum immortality, a thought experiment. It says if consciousness exists in all branches, then from your point of view, you never cease to exist. In every moment where death is possible, there is a version of you who survives. And in that version's world, you go on. You cannot perceive the branches where you are no longer present. So your experience is one of continuous survival. It's not science's answer to mortality, but it is a strange comfort that somewhere your story always continues, even when this thread ends, even when this life feels incomplete. You drift further now, and you begin to wonder, what if love crosses universes? What if certain people are entangled with you across versions, always finding you in every story, not the same way, not the same name, but the same recognition, the same pause when your eyes meet? Maybe the ones we love most are the constants in a sea of versions, like stars unchanged by time. You smile now, not because you understand it all, but because you don't need to. The multiverse isn't a puzzle to solve, it's a poem to rest in. You're not just a character on a single page. You are the book, you are the shelf, you are the library, and all your stories are still unfolding. So sleep now, traveller of branching paths. There is no wrong turn, only turns you have not yet remembered. Let this version of you rest. Let the others continue their dance. And know you are not alone in this moment. You never were. Somewhere, another you is also dreaming, and the space between you is not distance. It is wonder. You're resting now on the quiet slope of a story still unfolding. But tonight, you do not look for lines. You look for direction, not a script, but a pull. Because in this soft dream, you are following something deeper than prediction. You are following the arrow of time. You drift into a realm not made of decisions or destinies, but of thermodynamics, the science of energy, of heat and cold, of order and disorder. And somewhere in the hum of particles and the hush of equations, you find the pulse of time itself. You feel it not like a ticking clock, but like a current, always forward. Why does time move that way? Why does now feel different from then? The laws of physics, most of them don't care about direction. They work the same if you flip time forward or back, but not entropy. Entropy is the measure of disorder, and it always increases. Not always everywhere, but on the whole. A hot cup of tea cools, smoke disperses, memories fade. Entropy doesn't decrease, it spreads. It's the reason why an egg cracks, but doesn't uncrack, why a wave crashes, but doesn't rise again in perfect form. Entropy gives time its direction, its arrow. You drift now through this pattern, and you begin to wonder, is the future simply the direction entropy increases? Not a place written in stars, but a statistical certainty, a destination toward which all things slide, because there are more ways for them to be disordered than to remain arranged. Your body knows this. It burns energy, it decays, it ages, not as a punishment, but as part of the current. You're not breaking, you're flowing. You think now of how stories work, not the stories we tell, but the ones we are. Every moment builds on the last, characters change, tension rises, resolution approaches. This isn't fate, it's structure. Even in randomness, we see arcs. We find meaning in motion, in things that unfold. And maybe the universe writes in the same way. not with words, but with entropy. Each star it lights, each planet it cools, each life it warms is a phrase in the story of disorder increasing. But from that disorder emerges complexity, not chaos, but creativity. You see it in your breath, in your thoughts, in the wild patterns that rise from simple rules, like snowflakes, or galaxies, or consciousness. Somehow, from the forward drift of energy dispersing, comes the miracle of selfhood, of life that notices itself. And you are part of that noticing. You are the part of the universe that wonders why time flows, that tells stories about stories. You drift now into the thought that the future is not written, but statistically shaped. Not every moment is possible. Some are far more likely than others, and your life moves within that flow, not bound, not predetermined, but guided by pattern, like music within a key. You may play any note you choose, but some progressions sing louder than others, so you follow the song. Not because it is fixed, but because it feels true. You feel now how entropy governs memory. We remember the past because it is ordered. The tea was hot, the glass was full, the sun was rising, but the future is unmade, more chaotic, less certain. Entropy builds uncertainty. And yet, within that uncertainty is your freedom, because the most probable future is not the only one, and even in a universe flowing forward you can change direction within the stream. You can create pockets of order, a garden, a melody, a moment of kindness in a day of noise. You cannot reverse the arrow, but you can write within it, and in doing so, you make the future your own. So sleep now. Let entropy continue its song. You don't need to control it. You don't need to understand every variable. Just move in rhythm with the deeper story, the one the universe keeps telling, not in stars, but in you. You're drifting now, not through hours, but through something more still, a space without tempo, without countdown, without ticking. You've arrived at a part of the universe that doesn't blink, and in this quiet zone, time doesn't move because it doesn't need to. Tonight, are not floating through clocks. You are floating through equations, not the kind on classroom boards, sharp with chalk and memorized lines, but the silent ones, the ones beneath it all, equations that don't just describe reality, they are reality. You begin with a whisper, the Schrödinger equation. It governs quantum systems, atoms, particles, fields of uncertain light, and curiously, its structure is timeless. It describes how the state of a system changes, but it doesn't demand a specific now. There's no starting bell, no countdown, just the entire evolution of the system, as if time were already contained within the math. You drift through it now like a wave, not something you watch unfold, but something you are. Then you pass into a greater gravity, the realm of Einstein's field equations. You've been here before, in curved space, in relativity's strange ballet. But now you notice something new. These equations don't say this happens next. They say this whole thing exists. They describe space-time as a complete geometry, not a changing thing, but a finished structure, a block, a sculpture, timeless in its totality. You're not moving through the sculpture, you're tracing your finger along one tiny ridge, and you think maybe time feels like motion because your consciousness is so very narrow. It can only experience one slice at a time, like a laser scanning a page. But the book is already written, already there. You float beside physicist Julian Barber who once proposed that time doesn't exist at the fundamental level. Only configurations of the universe exist, each one a now, each one a still frame, a moment, a complete reality, and what you experience as the flow of time is just your mind stacking these frames into story, a story of memory, of cause, of purpose, but not of necessity. Because in the math, there is no preferred now. All moments are equally real, and the universe does not blink. You feel the beauty of this. Doesn't mean time is an illusion. It means it's a perspective, an experience, a lens we carry as conscious beings in a sea of frozen truths. You drift now into your own memories. They seem to arrive from behind you, but that's only because your brain writes them that way. The past is just information stored in a particular arrangement. The future is information you have not yet gathered, but all of it may already exist, like photographs in a dark room waiting to be developed. You wonder now if all moments are real. Is this one chosen? Are you in this moment because of something more than chance? Or are all your other moments equally breathing just beyond your reach? And if they are, then perhaps peace is knowing you cannot lose anything, because everything that was, everything that will be already is. The universe doesn't blink, it doesn't update, it doesn't rewrite. It holds, it includes, it encompasses all. So sleep now, gentle navigator of the unmoving sea. You don't need to rush. You're not falling behind. You're already inside every moment that matters. Let the math hold you. Let the stillness comfort you. There is nothing to miss, nothing to chase. Only the next frame, waiting quietly for your gaze. You drift now into a quieter sky, not silent but structured, the kind of quiet that follows a deep breath. The kind that lingers when everything seems to move according to some hidden rhythm. It feels like destiny, but it might just be determinism. Tonight, you float through the idea that the future is already written, not in poetry, not in prophecy, but in code, the laws of physics, the initial conditions, the elegant unfolding of consequence from cause. You hover now beside a marble sitting at the top of a hill. You give it a tiny push. It rolls, it bounces, it veers, it settles in a valley. But if you knew the slope, the texture, the weight, the wind, you could predict exactly where it would land. That is determinism. The belief that if you know everything about the current state of a system, its forces, its positions, its velocities, then the future is not uncertain. It is inevitable. You think now of the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace. He imagined a powerful intellect, sometimes called Laplace's demon, who knows the exact position and momentum of every atom in the universe. To this being, past and future are equally known. Nothing is mysterious. Nothing is open. Everything just follows the rules. You rest in that now, not with fear, but with calm. Because determinism is a kind of softness. It says there are no accidents, only consequence, only math. And maybe some part of you has always felt this, in the way you walk through a room before the storm, in the way the sun returns no matter what, but still you wonder, if everything is written, why does it feel like you're choosing? You drift now into the paradox. Modern physics holds both truths at once. Some laws are deterministic, like Newton's, like Einstein's. Others, like those in quantum mechanics, are not. Particles don't follow exact trajectories. They flicker, they wobble, they resolve into place only when measured. It's as if the universe plays with a dice that never quite lands. You are somewhere in between. Your body is built on chemical processes that obey strict rules. Your thoughts, your feelings, arise from them, and yet you feel free, because freedom might not mean randomness, it might mean sensitivity. A chaotic system can still be deterministic but unpredictable, like weather, like waves, like you. If a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, a storm might rise in Texas. Tiny differences can spiral into massive change. And maybe your life is like that, not random, but so delicately balanced that even the smallest action cascades into future paths you cannot trace. You are the butterfly, not in myth, but in physics. So maybe the calendar isn't fully written. Maybe it's being calculated moment by moment as probabilities collapse and forces unfold. Maybe some pages are fixed and others still blank. You drift now through memory. Think of all the moments you almost missed, the wrong turn that led to the right place, the chance encounter that felt inevitable. Were they coded or created? Did they always belong to your timeline, or did your choices etch them in as you passed? No one knows, and the most beautiful part is this: you don't have to know. You get to live it as if you are writing it, even if it's already written, because mystery isn't always something to solve. Sometimes it's something to carry, like a stone in your pocket, smooth, warm, unlabeled. So rest now. Let the universe continue its unfolding. Whether it is code or chaos, law or lyric, you are inside it, exactly where you're meant to be, and tomorrow's code. It may already be written, but it still needs you to read it line by line. You are standing now at the fork in the road, the classic symbol, the timeless metaphor. To the left, one version of you, to the right, another. You pause, you choose, you feel it like a pulse, a moment of agency. But then a breeze moves through the trees, and you begin to wonder, was it ever a choice tonight? You drift into the gentle tangle of free will, not to define it, not to solve it, but to rest inside its mystery and trace its quiet questions with your breath. Because the feeling of choosing is one of the most intimate sensations you carry. You say, I decided, I chose, I changed my mind. But what if those are stories? What if your mind is the narrator and not the author? You drift now beside philosophers from the ancients to the modern minds lit by MRI scanners and fMRI maps. They ask, is free will real, or is it an illusion crafted by the brain to make sense of its own unfolding? Your thoughts emerge from neurons. Your neurons respond to chemicals, to inputs, to prior states. You did not choose your genetics, your language, your childhood. And yet these things shape your choices. So where, exactly, does your will begin? You float now into your own brain. You see the processes electrical, chemical, automatic. And somewhere in the dance, a thought emerges. I will do this. But what came before that thought? Perhaps more thoughts, more patterns, more scripts written by time. You wonder now about authorship. If your hand moves, but the words were placed there by everything you've ever seen, are you still the writer? Some scientists say no, that your conscious awareness is a kind of press secretary, explaining decisions after they've already been made by unconscious processes. Others say yes, that even if your mind is shaped by causes, it still holds a special spark, a flame of unpredictability, of reflection. of choice. You drift into a third way, a soft space between determinism and randomness, where you're not a ghost in the machine, but the machine awakening, becoming aware of its own script. And in that awareness, something changes. You may not choose your first impulse, but you may choose your second. You may pause. You may wonder. And in wondering, you stretch the space between cause and effect. That space, small as it is, might be where free will lives, not as command, but as curiosity. You think now of a river. It flows because of gravity, because of terrain. But within that flow, a leaf may swirl, may pause in an eddy, may drift to one side or the other. Maybe your consciousness is that swirl, not escaping the river, but dancing within it. And that dance feels like freedom, because it is, even if the music has written long ago. You drift now into moral questions, into meaning. If all choices are determined, why try? Why hope? But the paradox is this: even if your choice was inevitable, you still had to live it, to feel it, to carry it, to bear the weight of its unfolding. Responsibility doesn't vanish with determinism, it deepens, because you are not choosing from nothing. You are choosing from who you are, and who you are is always in motion, always becoming. So sleep now, gentle traveller in the thought stream. You don't have to answer the riddle, just let it keep you company. Because whether your choices are free or fated, they still shape the world, they still shape you. And even if the script is written your voice, your rhythm, your breath as you read it, that's something no one else can do. Let that be enough. Let that be your freedom. You're standing now in a garden without direction. There is no front, no back, only the shimmer of possibility pressing from all sides. You feel it not like a wind pushing forward, but like a tide moving in two directions at once. Tonight, you drift into the paradox of retrocausality, the idea that the future may reach backward not to rearrange your path, but to gently fold it, like a letter sealed before it's written, like a memory that doesn't belong to the past. You begin, once again, with quantum entanglement, that silent, instant handshake between particles, a bond that seems to operate outside space and time. Some interpretations of quantum theory suggest something even more curious, not just particles interacting across distance, but across time. You float now into the transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics. It suggests that particles don't just send waves forward from past to future. They send advanced waves too from the future back to the past. And what we see as a single event is actually a handshake, a negotiation between a wave from the past and a wave from the future. Like two dancers meeting at the centre of a stage, both stepping, both responding, neither fully leading. You drift with this image. A photon doesn't simply travel from point A to point B. It whispers, in both directions, I will be there, if you will be there too. And time, instead of flowing, becomes a conversation, a mutual agreement between what was and what could be. You think now of moments in your own life that felt like echoes, not from behind you, but from ahead, a word that arrived too early, a choice you made with no reason, and later realized you were preparing for something not yet known. Were those intuitions, or something subtler? A ripple from the future that you somehow received. You drift further, deeper, into the mind. Neuroscience tells us that your brain is a prediction machine. It constantly forecasts what's next, filling in blanks. guessing movements, anticipating speech. It is always leaning forward. But what if some part of you can feel beyond, not by calculation, not by deduction, but by resonance, like a string vibrating sympathetically with a note not yet played? Retrocausality suggests that information does not only travel one way, that the universe may be non-local in time. And if that is so, if what's coming can influence what is then, perhaps you are shaped not only by memory, but by pre-memory. Something in you that remembers what has not yet happened. You think now of dreams, of symbols, of the feeling that something is about to change. You don't know why. You just do. What if the future leaves fingerprints? What if your life is a tapestry being woven from both ends, and you are the needle passing through? Some physicists are cautious. They warn against paradox, against backwards loops that might unravel cause and effect. But the math, the deep, luminous math, does not forbid it. And if time can be curved, then why not folded? Why not responsive? You rest now with a thought that feels like breath. Maybe the future is not fixed, but maybe it is present, not waiting to arrive, but already humming, already singing. And if you're quiet enough, if you soften, you might hear it, like a tone beneath the music, like a scent on wind from a season not yet here. You're not powerless, you're not blind. Some part of you is always reaching forward, yes, but also back. So sleep now, gentle receiver of unknown signals. Let your mind become still. Let your breath slow, and if the future calls to you in the shape of a feeling, a dream, a flicker of knowing, you will be listening, and the past will bloom accordingly. You are floating now above a field of numbers, but this is no cold grid, no sterile table. It is a meadow of possibilities, each one swaying gently in the wind of your breath. Some rise tall, some remain small. Some flicker only once and vanish. This is the landscape of probability, and you are drifting over it like a cloud that does not choose but observes. Tonight, you hover in the soft heart of uncertainty, not chaos, not confusion, but design, woven from patterns that only make sense from far enough away. You drift now into the quiet language of statistics, not predictions, but probabilities, because the future, it seems, is not a single road, but a weighted field. Some outcomes are more likely, others more rare, and this likelihood shapes your world in ways you rarely see. You feel it in weather forecasts, in coin tosses, in the subtle odds of meeting a stranger who feels like home, but beyond the surface, deep beneath decisions, probability hums like a current guiding you through time. You think of quantum particles again. When you look for one, you don't know where it will be. You only know how likely it is to be in a certain spot. That's all the wave function gives you: probability density, not fact, not fate. A cloud of chance, collapsing when you observe. Your life too might be like that. A cloud of possibility, narrowing each time you choose. But even your choosing may follow probability set long ago. The experiences you've had, the wiring of your brain, the habits you hold, and yet, no probability is absolute. Even the rarest outcome can still bloom. And sometimes the improbable does. You think now of the conditions that made you, the precise arrangement of stardust and storms, the generational mathematics of ancestry. How many near misses led to your name? And still, here you are, a person among trillions, with your own specific path through the web, statistically unlikely, and yet undeniably real. You drift further, into the realm of predictive modelling. It's how we build weather maps, election forecasts, disease projections, each model a simulation of a future based on the past, and still even the best model is only an educated guess. It offers what will probably happen, but not what must. That difference is everything, because probability creates space for surprise, for deviation, for wonder. It means that nothing is truly locked. You're not bound to the most likely version of yourself. You can deviate. You can rise like a rare bloom in a desert statistically too dry for flowers. You drift now into the paradox of randomness. True randomness is rare. Most of what looks random is actually the result of complex systems, cause layered on cause, pattern folded into pattern, and your mind, with all its neural dance, emerges from such complexity, not mechanical, not chaotic, but statistical. You think now of rolling a die, it feels random, but physics could, in theory, predict the outcome if you knew every variable. And so your own future may not be random either, but it is unknowable, and that is the gift. Because within uncertainty lives hope, within probability lives possibility. You are never trapped in the most likely outcome. You're always walking a thread that could veer. You rest now in this truth. Destiny may be a statistical shape, a curve that leans a certain way, but you are the breath that moves across that curve. You are the tiny nudge that shifts the odds. You're the snowflake that tips the avalanche, the whisper that breaks the silence. So sleep now, gentle defier of expectation. The field of probability is not your prison, it is your canvas. And even the smallest motion may write a future no model could ever capture. You are drifting now, not through space, not through time, but through something softer, stranger, yourself, not your name, not your memories, but the quiet presence behind your eyes, the witness, the listener, the one still here when everything else fades. Tonight, you float gently into the deep and trembling question that flickers behind every other who is doing the seeing, who watches your thoughts arise, who hears your breath without needing to speak. You're not just a character in this story of time. You are, perhaps, the author, but not in the way you imagined, not with pen in hand, scripting every event, but with attention, with awareness, with the quiet act of witnessing, and that witnessing, some say, is what brings the future into being. You drift now through the layers of consciousness. Some neuroscientists describe the brain as a prediction engine, a biological machine forecasting sensations before they arrive. Others call it a story machine stringing together events into a narrative we call self. But beyond the cortex, beneath the words, there is something neither science nor philosophy has ever fully caught the experiencer, the one who feels, the one who knows you are here. And here's the mystery, that experiencer, that you may not just be reading the story, but helping to write it. You think now of dreams you shape as you sleep, lucid moments where you realize this is a dream, and suddenly you can fly, or sing, or rewind. You are both in the dream and aware of the dream. And maybe waking life is not so different. Maybe there are moments where your awareness changes the script, not dramatically, but subtly, in the way a glance alters a conversation, in the way a breath can still a racing thought. You are not powerless. Your presence matters. You float now into the words of quantum theory again. The wave function, that elegant equation describing all possibilities, does not collapse until observed. Without observation, there is only the haze of what might be, but with observation comes form, a shape, a fact, a reality. And so you wonder, if a particle needs a witness to become real, perhaps the future does too. Perhaps you are the witness the universe is waiting for, not just to see what happens, but to help decide what happens. You drift into soft philosophies now. Eastern traditions speak of the self as not separate from the world, but the very ground on which it appears. Consciousness not as an individual event, but as the fabric through which all events flow. You are not watching the movie. You are the light projecting it, the screen holding it, the silence underneath the sound. And if that's true, then perhaps the future is not ahead of you, but within you. Not a destination, but a direction your presence helps create. You think now of choices you've made from deep within, not logical, not planned, but right. They emerge not from thinking, but from knowing. The kind of knowing that feels quiet, warm, true. That might be authorship, not control, not domination, but attunement. Writing the next line not because you want it, but because it belongs. You're not writing the story alone, but you are writing it. With every act of kindness, every moment of stillness, every time you pause before reacting, you shape the path. You don't own it. You don't dictate it. But you walk it with a pen no one else can hold. So sleep now, gentle author of becoming. The script may be guided, but your attention is the ink, and tomorrow's chapter will wait for your breath before it writes itself. You are the story, and the one who tells it. You are here now, not on a path, not in a plan, just here. A breath, a pause, a presence. Tonight, you have wandered through particles that flicker, choices that ripple, and timelines that stretch in every direction. You floated beside futures already blooming, and pasts that whisper like light from distant stars. And now, you return to the only place that has ever truly existed, this moment, the present, not as a waiting room for what comes next, but as the garden where the seeds of everything already live. You drift now into a space beyond answers. You don't need to know if the future is fixed, or free, or fractal, because what you've found is softer than certainty. It's this: nothing is waiting. Everything is becoming. You're not walking toward a script. You're dancing with possibility. There is no path to find. There is only the unfolding, and you are part of it. You are the fingertip trailing through spacetime's lake. The note arriving in a song that sings itself. You're not outside of time. You're the part of time that feels, the part that wonders, the part that pauses long enough to see the stars breathe. You think now of clocks, not the mechanical kind, but the inner ones, the ways your body keeps rhythm with the planet, with the light, circadian tides, cellular cycles, heartbeats that rise and fall like miniature eternities, all of them saying now, now, now. You feel your pulse, not as a countdown, but as a participation, a co-creation. The future isn't a place you arrive, it's a vibration you enter. It doesn't pre-exist, it coalesces, like dew forming on grass in the hush before dawn. You're not being led, you're not being pushed, you're being met, moment by moment, motion by motion, becoming by becoming. Even the universe, in its vastness, its majesty, its uncountable stars, is not finished. It is still unfolding, still expanding, still becoming itself. And you tiny, luminous, you're doing the same. So let go now of needing to know what happens next. Let go of the question that held your pillow. Let it fall like a leaf into a river, and listen instead to what is already here. The rustle of your own breath, the gentle hush where thought begins to quiet. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not missing anything. Everything you are meant to become is already inside you, not sleeping, not hidden, just unfolding. And every future worth living is one you will arrive in by being yourself, completely, softly, now and now. Sweet traveller of time and thought, we let it all go. The particles, the waves, the futures that split and shimmer, the loops, the probabilities, the whispers of choice and chance. Let them rest. They do not need to be solved. They do not need to be named. They are not doors you must open. They are starlight already past. And you are safe now in the hush that follows wonder. You do not need to do anything else. You do not need to think. You have already wandered so far tonight. You've floated through dimensions without leaving your bed. You've stretched beyond the map and found yourself not lost, but home. So let your shoulders fall. Let your jaw unclench. Let your thoughts become feathers. There is nothing more to reach for, nothing more to hold. The next moment will arrive on its own. You do not need to chase it. Let sleep find you like a tide at low moon, gentle, inevitable, kind. You're not missing your destiny. You're not behind in your life. The truth is you are right on time. Exactly here, exactly now. This breath is enough. This pause is sacred, and the future, it is not waiting for you. It is becoming with you. So breathe, dear dreamer. Sink into the curve of the mattress. Let gravity carry your edges. And if thoughts return, greet them like old friends. Then let them go. Float, drift, dissolve. You're not falling asleep. You're being held by time itself, cradled by the rhythm of a universe that never needed you to hurry. You are not a mistake. You are not late. You are not wrong. You are the soft unfolding of something ancient and new, and the script of all your tomorrows is being written in this quiet breath. The future is not ahead of you. It is already within you. Good night, soft soul. Rest deeply, and when you wake, may you remember you are not chasing time. You are its most beautiful expression.